She is, at 18, athlete representative on the International Paralympic Committee Council, not for Uganda, but for Africa. She is also the only Ugandan, both at the Olympics, Commonwealth, and Paralympics at that level to qualify for a swimming competition at the Paralympics. She is in year 12 in international school. If you follow our own curriculum, that's senior 5. Oh yes. In studio with me, please. I'm humbled and honored to have the one and only Husnah Kukundakwe. Welcome to the Game of Life.
Thank you. I mean, what a great intro. I'm kind of nervous here because
No, shouldn't be.
Because I'm honestly just really honored to have been able to achieve all that, of course, with God's grace, and I'm very happy to be here in the Game of Life. I've watched some of the podcasts and I can't wait to have an amazing conversation with you.
In Ogambachi.
Yeah,
You still speak that as well, right?
No, it's actually, I've only started speaking the local languages like this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have you at the Game of Life, man.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be
here. And you know, we've been at this for some months.
Yeah.
You are around, you're not around, and then when next, and then I'm like, now you're traveling the following next week. I'm like, now before you travel, Husnah, we need to make this happen. Yes. Thanks to you making the time, and of course, Mom, who is with us. She's comfortable and safe where she is. We have her here. Everything is taken care of. So Husnah, welcome again.
Thank you. Yeah.
That intro, that's quite heavy for a 19-year-old.
Maybe, but also, then again, it's very possible.
Yeah.
Very possible for any 18-year-old.
Yeah.
It just takes lots of hard work, dedication, and as we will hear from my story, there's definitely lots of that.
And of the 18 years, you must have spent half of that in water, right?
Not exactly, actually, because I started swimming when I was 3 years old. But then, in the kindergarten swimming pool, I went to Linda Deke Nursery School, and that swimming pool there is just, it was where I found my passion.
3 years old. What are you doing in water, in a swimming pool?
I don't know. I just felt drawn to the water. I remember I would have these group swimming classes.
Who put you in the water?
Myself. Myself every single day. I remember
in a bucket?
fighting. No. In a swimming pool itself, in a big pool, mind you.
Who was there with you?
The swimming coach, the lifeguard of the swimming pool.
Oh, you had a coach at 3 years?
No, not a coach, but like the lifeguard of the swimming pool who was running the swimming program there at the school. And I remember when they would come and collect the class from our classrooms and say, oh, it's time for swimming. I don't remember much, but I know I would always find myself inside the pool. There's even a story that every time I would go for swimming, my mom was not happy at all. Like to the point that she refused to buy me the swimming costume because she wasn't okay with the idea that my daughter might drown. I wish she's safe. And I remember even when I didn't have the costume, I would go in my underwear and I would make sure I was in that water.
You just loved your water.
I loved the water. I just loved going there. Even my first experience with the deep end, I remember I just flung myself there and somehow I survived. That's how much I love the water, to the point that even if it killed me right there and then, I would still be happy.
Now, of course, in my introduction, I talked of how you are the only Ugandan to have qualified for Paralympics. By that I mean, like, we have people who have been at the Paralympics and at the Olympics in swimming, but they have gone there on what we call either wild card or invitation. By you qualifying, I mean you qualified on sporting merit by making the times.
Yes, and
you are the only one, whether in Paralympics or Olympics or at that level in Uganda.
Yes, and I remember when I achieved that, I thought it was possible in my own perspective, because by the time COVID came up and the Paralympics were postponed, I was so sure that I was going on merit. I was going on invitation or wildcard for the Paralympic Games of Tokyo to be in 2020. So when they were postponed to 2021, of course, I'd grown a bit taller, I'd got stronger, and I was like, I can't get to this time. I was about 5 seconds away from the qualification time. So during that small COVID period, I had a discussion with my coach. I said, we have to find a way to train. We have to find somewhere to train within these
5 seconds. Yeah.
We have to remove them.
Yeah.
So then I remember we used to do those Zoom meetings where I would do gym with him. We have a full gym basically at home. We have the weights, we have the balancing ball, we have skipping ropes, everything. We made sure that by the time any possible swimming pool nearby home was open, we'd be able to start from almost where we left off. So when I started training in the pool, it was now, okay, let's work on the technique that we may have not been working on in the Zoom and try and get better and faster and endurance in the swimming pool. So by the time the competitions came up, it was a World Series in Sheffield where I got another opportunity to swim before the Paralympic Games. I saw the time. Time was 1 minute and 37 seconds. My previous time was 1 minute and 42, 43 seconds. So I had to cut about 5 to 6 seconds to get to that time. I thought to myself behind the blocks, this is one opportunity that I have. I have all these other events, sure, but this is the one I care about the most. I dived into that pool. I did my best, so much so that I ended up beating one of Great Britain's greatest paraswimmers. And when I beat her, of course, that was already a huge thing, but also I made the qualification time and I beat it by 1 second.
Thank you.
That's how epic it was.
We are going to come back to that. We're going to come back to that, Husnah.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about this, you mentioned 3 years in the pool. And I'm thinking we need to trace back this story. I mean, which irresponsible parent can have a kid at 3 near the swimming pool? But also, you are at the Paralympics, not Olympics. And for those of you watching, the Olympics is for the people who have everything functional on their body. The Paralympics are for the differently able. Either it's a limbless or a limb off, but they still have to be part of these things that the rest of the world who have everything going have. And that's how we have the Paralympics. Now, whenever we have Olympics, just immediately after the Olympics, we have the Paralympics following. And that's how we have Husnah in the house. Now, Husnah, I just want to know, did your mom swim? Did your dad swim? Do you have an uncle that swam? How, let's get the background of where you came from, whether there's any sense of swimming, and then we get also to find out how you found your way into dipping yourself in water. Who swam at home?
No one. Except for, I had an older cousin. We went to the same school together. And in primary school, of course, I already started swimming in kindergarten, but not like all the specific strokes. So in Sabo Kagwa, there's this swimming program. They would go for swimming every Tuesdays and Thursdays sometimes. So on every Tuesday, I remember I asked my dad, please pay for swimming. I need to swim because my cousin was on the team. So
Which class
I was in P1.
Okay.
Yeah, because after kindergarten, I went straight to Sapalo. And there, I would go for those Tuesday trainings every day. And before I knew it, I was able to go a whole lap in the pool. And then I remember at one of the competitions, actually, I swam with my cousin because he was swimming really well and collecting all the medals and he was really fast. I was like, I'm going to be like that guy. I want to swim like him. And then I remember when it came time for my race, of course, I was very confident. I swam a couple of the races before, well, of course, to my perspective. Maybe the other people outside, teachers who are in charge of the event, weren't very impressed, I guess. But for me, I was just happy that I was able to go a full lap across the pool. So when it came to like my event, the one that I wanted, the 25 meters breaststroke, just 1 lap across, I went there and to my shock, I was not the one supposed to swim, even though my name was on the paper to swim. I had been swapped for someone else. Like someone else was going to swim the event for me instead of me. So in that moment, I was like absolutely heartbroken. That was, I would say, the first time I ever faced discrimination and I was aware of it. Like you face these things, but then you just brush them off. But in that moment, I knew I didn't deserve this. So, of course, she swam the race. I was there. I saw her swim the race. But then I was like, okay, maybe let me stick around and see how the rest of the event goes. Then when it came to awarding her for her medal, because of course she won the race, she was faster than me. And when it came to awarding her medal, they still called out my name instead of her name. So that's the part that totally like broke me down, because I was like, okay, yes, she swam the race, but why wouldn't they give it to her in her name? Why did they have to give it to her in my name? So then I remember I went back home frustrated. Of course, at that time I was with my dad. He had come to watch me and my cousin swim. So I went back home. I didn't even go back to school. My cousin went back to school, but me, I went straight home. And I remember I was just frustrated to the point that I just brushed off the whole thing and I I asked for, like, as a kid, you just ask for your dad's phone or a laptop and you play a game and just forget about it the rest of the day. So since then, I remember I stopped swimming. Like, I just stopped going for the school trainings. I just decided, let me just participate in the in-school sports. Played netball, volleyball, football, everything that the school
You
could
just
provide.
loved your sports.
I just liked sports because, well, who doesn't want to run around and have fun on a school day? Mind you, I did all of this while wearing a sweater. So I would sweat in that sweater just so I can hide my hand. I mean, my hand was the reason why I couldn't swim that race. So why would it not be the reason why they don't allow me to play this sport? So of course I would go and play, but of course I wasn't the best on the team. I wasn't very good at it, but I was tall, so I knew how to hit a volleyball and it goes down. I was always a tall kid. So I had some kind of fun during those events because, well, it's enjoyable. In those moments, no one really cares. And of course, my love for sport was always going to stay there. So it was like that for like 2 or 3 years until I was like in P3, P4, when I started to realize that I'm bored. The only sport that I really, really loved was swimming. Because even after I had stopped like that kind of school training, I'd go out with my cousins and we'd go to the swimming pool, and that's where I had the most fun ever. So P4, P5, P3, P4, I started going with the school program again. But this time around, I was on a mission to beat that girl. I said, I'm going to swim, and I'm even going to swim on the weekend. I'm going to tell my dad to take me swimming on the weekend, find a swim club or whatever I can to swim better and swim faster than that girl. So the next competition that came up, school competition, I swam so well that I was just collecting all the medals. There weren't enough medals for me to get.
And mind you, this time you're swimming with the rest of the people. There's nothing like differently abled or...
I was swimming with
the rest, normally like everyone else.
Yeah, with everyone else. Yeah. I remember it wasn't inter-school, but it was inter-house. So different sports day colors. I remember I swam all the events that day and I was winning all my events. I was just on fire, to the point that I even beat that girl, and I felt like I had achieved everything that I wanted in this life. I remember I went on those podiums, got a medal, got a trophy, and I was so, so happy that then even during the holidays, I started to swim even.
What were the teachers' reactions when you were just swimming everything?
That teacher stayed in P1, but then by the time I got to like P4, P3, I was swimming so well, and there was, of course, a new school coach. And he's actually the one who introduced me to paraswimming, but let me first finish this behind story. Then after that competition, I remember I went up to this girl and said, how are you? Because I was like, okay, I'm now swimming faster than you. In my head, I was thinking, I'm faster than you now. There's nothing anyone can do to stop me. And I've proven that teacher wrong. So now swimming just became a hobby for me. Even during the holidays when there was no school, I joined a swim club. It's called Malta Swim Club, Kampala. That was for the school coach. And he's the one who taught me all the different strokes: freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly. And he's actually the one who introduced me then to paraswimming. So yeah, that's how irresponsible parenting could led me to that point.
I see. And before we go still deeper into the swimming, for those who know you from swimming and maybe who watch you on media, it comes off like you're the only kid at home, are you?
Oh, no.
I
actually have an older brother. He's also a really good swimmer. He swam for the university team at Makerere. So he also did university games, East Africa, and he did really well. He has like a few medals. And yeah, he's a really, really good swimmer, but he never took it like professionally, just for university swimming. And I have a younger brother, one who comes after me, 5 years after me. He's called Ama. And then the youngest one, who's 10 years after me, is called Ayan. So I have 3 brothers and I'm an only girl.
Only mommy's girl.
Mommy's girl.
And mommy's manager, mom's girl. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Now, we want to get into the Paralympic story with the proper background of you. When did you realize that, okay, people have 2 hands, I have 1? When did it first occur to you?
I would say I realized that when I was like 3 years old, 4 years old. But of course, within family, they never treated me any different. Like I would play with my cousins, I would play with my brothers, and it wasn't they would never leave me out. So to me, that wasn't a big of a much of a
At
deal.
home, everything was okay.
At home, everything was okay. I was still made to do chores. I don't even know how I did them, but I know I was doing them. And I was treated like any other kid at home. But then when I joined primary school, where there's all these kids who are going to overlook at you, start whispering, and be like, that girl has one hand. And people ask me, how did you lose your hand? And I don't know what to tell them, because even me, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because me, I was just born with it. I just know it's there.
Yeah.
So around 12th class, so I was around 4, 5. That's when I started to realize I was different. Because I would sit in a classroom and no one would want to talk to me because they are wondering what's wrong with that girl's hand. So I guess the teacher at the time noticed, and every time it was like lunchtime or break time or home time, she would try to engage with me a lot to make sure that I'm not feeling left out.
Yeah.
So it became now a bigger problem after that. That's when I started wearing the sweaters all the time to try and hide my hand. And it went on for so long. Like even by the time I go to P4 and I was swimming, I was slightly more confident, but still, even then I was still trying to hide my hand. Right after my classification actually was when I started to feel more free. Because when I went for that classification, I saw lots of people with disabilities. With all the different kinds. Some people in a wheelchair, others don't have legs. So I was like, others have much shorter hands or no hands at all. So that's when I realized that I'm actually not that much different from others. And I only have something minor as compared to the other guys. So I knew swimming has exposed me to this. And already people at the swimming pool don't really care how I look anymore, because I'm there so often.
Yeah.
And I've already proven to them that I can swim so much. No one ever looks at me different there. So when I started going to school, I lost a sweater one time, and my mom refused to buy another one because she knew I had to eventually get out of my shell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I started to wear short sleeve shirts. I absolutely hate long sleeve clothes. Even when I'm wearing a sweater, I feel like I'm being oppressed.
Yeah.
But it was a journey of confidence. And after that, I started to feel free talking to people, and I no longer felt the need to wear the sweater unless it was cold, of course. Yeah.
Did mom have to explain to you, or dad?
Yes, of course. I remember going to them one time. Actually, no, I asked my mom. I asked her, I said, Mommy, what happened to my hand? Because that's when I was like, people keep asking me. And there's one time I made up a lie. And to this time, the people who I told that lie to keep asking me, are you sure that's not the truth? Because I said, one time I was going somewhere and the gate locked in on my hand. So for me, that was just a lie I came up with.
It was a logical lie.
It was a logical lie, like the gate ate up my hand.
Yeah.
So then I asked my mom, and my mom said, you were born like that. That's how God made you. So I said, okay, now I have an answer. So every time someone would ask me, I'd say, I was born like that. What happened to your hand? I was born like that. Then some of the people that I had lied to started saying, but Husnah, why are you lying? We know that gate ate your hand. But then I tell them, but that's true. Do you see any big scar that could show that there was a big wound there? No, I was actually born like this, and this is how God made me. So then the people whom I told the truth, of course, started to become closer friends who I'm still with to this day. And yeah, that's how I started to gain more confidence, as well as people started to accept me now for the way that I was.
How liberating was it, hearing the truth from mom and living the truth?
It also made me wonder, like, why did God make me like this? Yeah, because why did God have to make other people with 2 hands, but for me, he made me with 1 hand? So then it was now just a matter of acceptance and making the most of what I've been given, and knowing that I can't change it no matter what. So then once I learned to accept that and be happy with that, it definitely helped a lot. And my parents were also supportive of that, that notion, because we're all very God-fearing. And when God decides something, you just have to accept it, live with it, and make the most of that situation. So that's what we did.
Awesome.
That's what we did, yeah.
It's good to embrace it, and then you live. Just imagine you
just live
you
like
had
a
fought
normal
it.
person.
Would you be here?
That's what brings stigma. People thinking that anything could have changed, yet it was God's will for you to be like that. And the most you can do is just live with it, be happy, and
awesome.
Yeah, but of course it took some time.
It did.
It did.
So now you focus fully on swimming your dream. You had broken all these barriers, mental barriers, the frustrations. You just, you rose above every other odd that was on your way.
Yeah.
And you're dominating Sapolo Kagwa Primary School, right?
I left the best swimmer in the school.
Yes?
I left that school when I was the best swimmer.
Whether
able-bodied or not.
Not just the best swimmer. You also were the best student.
Best student, yes.
In your P7?
Yeah.
4?
Yeah, 4 aggregates. After all that hustle.
4?
Yeah.
And where do you go after that?
I went to Aga Khan High School. And there I was welcomed with open arms because I had already been in the papers a little bit. And also the 4 aggregates. It was almost a direct entry. Yeah.
Did they give you a scholarship?
No, they didn't.
I mean, you had 4.
I had 4.
You came as one of the best swimmers, if not the best. Okay, so Aga Khan is also known for swimming.
Yes.
You go there with your momentum from Sapolo. And
actually, what took me to Aga Khan was that after I got my classification, I started to swim now almost like a professional swimmer.
Can you explain to the viewers of the show what a classification means?
Okay. In paraswimming, there's different kinds of disabilities all over the world. Some intellectual, a lot of physical, and blindness as well. Visual impairments. Yeah. So among those, there's different severities of disabilities. So you'll find that me, as a person with one hand, will swim with another person who has one leg. So it depends on the impact that their body has on the water. So out of those classes, from S1 to S10 are all physical. So depending on the severity, S1 being the most severe and S10 being the least severe physical impairment. Then S11, S12, and S13 are for visual impairments. Of course, S11 being totally blind, basically. Then S13 having some kind of vision, but still considered legally blind. Then S14 is for the intellectually impaired. So that's people with autism or really low IQ, something like that. Then, so for someone to participate in those events, in paraswimming events like the Paralympic Games or Commonwealth Games or World Championships, you need to have a paraswimming class. So mine is S8, SB8 for breaststroke, and SM8. So S stands for freestyle, backstroke, and butterfly. Then SB is for breaststroke only. Then SM is for individual medley, where I do all 4 strokes. Yeah, that's basically the classification system that is there for swimming. So I had my first classification in Nairobi, Kenya. And after that, then I started to do more training. So in doing that more training, I changed swim clubs, and I now I started swimming with Dolphin Swim Club Kampala under Coach Muzafaru, who was also the swim coach for Aga Khan High School, or Aga Khan School in general, primary, high school. He was the coach there. So he told me to make the program more conducive, it would be best you go to Aga Khan as well, because they have a swimming pool. Okay. So, of course, and when they have a swimming pool, I was like, okay, first choice. Of course, I put other choices.
Just to fill that list.
Just to fill the list. But of course, I made sure I made that day schools on top, because I knew this wasn't going to be like a boarding school would not be able to handle this program. So when I was accepted into Aga Khan, I got admissions, applied, did all the steps. And when I got into Aga Khan, my coach, of course, the swim club already was familiar with the school. So in case I would come to school late, it wouldn't be a problem. Or when I would be away from school, the administration would understand. Yeah.
And Aga Khan, do you also dominate the same way you did at Sapolo?
This one's kind of different now, because in Aga Khan, there's club swimmers. In club swimming, there's national champions. There's the people who go on wild card. All these are in club swimming. Then, of course, it was tough to get into club swimming where I'm not the best, because the training program is different, the distance is more, and the intensity is higher. So I wasn't the best swimmer, but I was among the best. And still, that gave me lots of confidence because every time I would go for even just national championships, for example, at like Kampala parents compete and then come back to school, I would still be given that kind of glory because they would call all of us up on assembly and be like, these guys participated in the national championships, they need to be given an appreciation. And also when the inter-school games would come up, I would be among the top people to pick to participate in those, where even then I was able to get some medals competing inter-school with all these different schools and still be able to swim competitively and with the tough schedule and also be very good at school. The school was just very supportive of everything that I did. And even though they may not have given me a scholarship, but they were still very supportive in the aspect that not a lot of schools would allow me to be in and out anytime. Like to the point that I would miss some exams. But if it meant coming to school on Saturdays, I would still go and do those exams because they would be happy to support.
At this time, do you have it in mind that you actually want to do this for the rest of your life?
Yes. For the rest of my life, even if I'm not competing anymore, I know that I still want to be a part of swimming or the para-swimming world. Yeah.
And when do you get your first move out of the country? Of course, classification was in Nairobi.
Yeah.
Which class was that? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the year of school.
2018.
Which class?
I was in P6.
P6,
yeah.
Did you fly? You went by bus?
I had to fly, come on. I remember at that trip, I actually didn't travel with my mom. That was actually the one trip I didn't travel with her, and she had a million panic attacks, and ever since then, we traveled together. So I remember going for that trip was actually very difficult to find the funding for it.
Yeah.
But the director of Sao Paulo Kagwa Schools, may his soul rest in peace, he sponsored my flight. He bought my flight ticket to go to Nairobi. And I remember the coach at the time was saying, we have to use bus, but then I'm also not good with road. Even when we were going to the village at the time, I would get very sick for like the first day. And yet I had to compete the next day immediately after I arrived. So it was like, okay, and we had the support from the director. And all we had to look for now was just payment for accommodation, which my parents were able to gather. So then, I flew for the first time as well. Wow.
How was it? How was it, the experience?
I was alone in the plane.
The takeoff and the landing?
It was, I want to say I remember a lot of what happened, but all I know is that I was given so much care. They gave me snacks every time.
Did you worry you had to pay for them?
No, because I didn't know anything. Like, all I knew is that at the airport, there's this person who was following me everywhere because I was a minor. So they had to help me with my bags. They had to help me with getting to my gate. And it was, I would say, the best flight experience I ever had. I sat on the window. They asked me, whose seat do you want to sit? I want to sit on the window. And when I looked outside and I could see Uganda from above and we're passing through clouds, it was so surreal. I was like, I have to do this again. I have to come back.
You had inspiration. You had more reason now.
I had more reason to travel. I had more reason to swim.
Yeah.
Like.
And then you finish your senior 4 at Aga Khan.
Yeah.
How do you perform in senior 4?
I got 5 A's, 2 B's, and a C. Yeah.
Awesome.
It was good.
And then what do you decide to focus on for A-level?
For A-level, I'm doing biology, chemistry, and maths. Yes.
Awesome. But you are in an international school. That's Kabojja?
Kabojja International School.
Which year?
I'm in year 12.
Year 12?
Yeah.
Which in our academic curriculum or program is senior 5.
Yes.
Okay. How's it going? Are you feeling like you're grinding it as well as you're grinding it in the pool?
Yes, I think so. Because A-level requires, I would say, 90% of your life to be school. But for someone whose life is almost 60% swimming and then 40% school, I feel like I'm balancing really well. And the school is just very supportive of everything that I do. I remember one time I was away from, actually this time in Singapore, I was away from school for over 2 weeks. And the moment I went back and I requested help from the teachers, I didn't even have to look for them. I would go to them and they would be ready to help me. I remember immediately I went back, there was a chemistry exam the next day. And I spoke to the teacher before I left and they said, okay, you'll do the exam another time. And that's when I realized that they are actually
They're in your corner.
They're in my corner, they're
Yeah.
with me because I have so much passion for school as much as I do swimming. So I try to make sure that I'm achieving well in both. So when I went back, I had about 6 days before the math exam. And math in A level it's a lot. It's a lot of work. So in those 5 days prior to that paper, my math teacher was getting me through a whole topic and a half that they had studied when I was away.
Wow.
And I was able to do the exam successfully. I believe I did really well. And the rest of the exams as well, every time I would approach any teacher for help, they'd be more than supportive. And the school as well was, in case I needed to go to school on Saturday, they'd be very supportive of that as well. And I would say Kabojja has given me an environment where I can study well and swim well at the same time. And considering this is A level where it's very, very, very competitive, very serious, I've been able to balance both. And this year I would say has been one of my busiest because I've traveled to USA, came back with some medals, so that was very, very nice. It was very nice to be called up on assembly, and I didn't get to show off my medals, but it was nice to get that recognition. And I also had to travel to Switzerland and Germany for the IPC Athletes Forum as well as IOC Athletes Forum back to back. And I remember I missed a week of school, but then at the same time, with doing this curriculum, most of my swimming events are in the summer. So that's when school is off. So I have all that time to make sure that I'm doing my swimming so that by the time I go back to school, there aren't many events disrupting my classes. So
that's pretty much class, which you can't get away from the swimming. So they are kind of intertwined.
Yeah.
Internationally, after you've done everything local, and now you've got to start and swim in the same waters where the very best swim internationally. You've been to 2 Olympics,
2 Paralympics.
2 Paralympics,
Yeah.
and one Commonwealth.
Yeah, 1 Commonwealth.
1 Islamic Games.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 3 World Championships.
3 World Championships.
Yeah.
And you're just from the World Championships in
Yes.
Singapore.
Yes.
I want us to take a little trip in all those, because that whole experience, 2 Paralympics, 1 Commonwealth, 3 World Championships, Commonwealth, Islamic Games. You just turned 18 in March of this year.
Yeah.
That's quite packed. I mean, and to think that you are doing all this while still in school, in most cases, people say school first, right? Let's sort this. It's quite busy.
Or it's swim, let's compete first, do sports alone.
We'll do school later.
Then school later.
But you're doing all this together. How do you do it?
It takes a lot of focus, I would say, because let me first start from 2019. I had the World Championships and I also had P7, I had PLE. So, of course, with support from the teachers, when I came back to school after the World Championships, I was able to catch up, revise with my fellow students, and pass those exams because I had not only the dedication, but also support from my parents. So I knew I couldn't, after doing really well at those championships, I had to do even better here to prove to the rest of my family that I can get both done. Because when I did those well, I then had full support of everything. Because in the start, like I think towards PLE time, towards around P6 actually, my dad started to pull back a bit because he was realizing that swimming is taking up a lot of my time.
Yeah.
So he wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it in P7 and succeed. So when it came to P7, it was now you have one shot to get this right. If you can do PLE and perform really well and also swim and do really well, you can do
You have us.
You have us. You've sold it.
Yeah.
Because even my grandfather was almost against it. My grandfather is too in deep education. He's a teacher. He used to be a teacher. So then once I got that right, I was like, okay, I can keep doing it. Senior 4 came and I also had the Paralympic Games. So now that was higher stakes because I had the Paralympic Games, which are huge, and also Senior 4, which is also very, very huge. So still then, I made sure that every single moment that I had outside of the pool, for example, Sunday, when I'm not swimming, I maximize that time to read, catch up, revise, do everything that I need to do before the busy week begins. Any missing homework that I have, I make sure that it gets done on Sunday so that the rest of the week I'm able to focus on swimming and also not get distracted in my swimming. Then that was successful. Now in A level, this year has been quite busy, I would say, and I'm yet to see how the results come out, but I believe I've done really well because we had mocks and I did very decent compared to how mocks are supposed to be.
Yeah, they didn't mock you.
They didn't mock me so much.
Yeah.
They mocked me, but not the way you'd
Not that
expect
much.
mocks you to strangle you. But I did decent in the mocks, so I'm like, okay, I'm definitely balancing this well because I thought it was going to be even more impossible in A level because it was quite difficult in senior form. But I guess this curriculum allowed me some time to get time to actually catch up because I would come back from championships 2 weeks later, I have exams.
Yeah.
Come back from PLE, a month later, I have exams. So you'd think that there's little time, yet.
And also looks like you were swimming and exams. Where is the studying? Like attending a class?
Exactly. When am I attending classes?
Yeah.
And my coach understood that, of course. Yeah. So nowadays, my training program starts, I swim from 5 to 7. So that I'm in school by 8. And then I swim after school.
5 to 7 of 5 a.m.?
Yeah, 5 a.m. to 7
Is that a weekly schedule?
Yeah, every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday.
5 a.m.
Saturday is the day when I sleep later.
7 a.m. you're done, and then you're ready for class.
Yes. I'm sleepy, I'm tired, but I know I want to study.
What time do you go to bed?
I go to bed, it's actually quite tough because it depends on how the traffic is. Because in the evening, I also train in the evening as well. Train morning and evening. In the evenings, training is from, I'll say 6, because that's the most ideal time. But 5:30 to 7 p.m. Then, depending on the traffic, usually I'm home by 8:30 or 9. So I have dinner. If I still have some time to spare, I'll try to do some homework for about 30 to 20 minutes before I'm in bed by 10. Yeah.
Wow. and in between, I'm sure your colleagues at school are struggling. You're struggling to make friends because
I don't have any time outside of school.
I mean, you're at school. When you're at school, you're catching up with lost time.
Yeah.
You're doing exams. You're traveling. So at school, there's something missing in terms of friends. Do you have those? Do you have friends at school?
Actually, those friends are some of the people that actually help me with catching up.
Okay. Because
in case maybe I'm unable to access the teacher and the next lesson is going to be, for example, like differentiation, and I need a bit of a background on differentiation. The good thing with A-level is that you have some free periods.
Yeah.
So in those free periods, I'm able to approach my classmates and be like, just give me a background on this before you enter that lesson. I haven't been around, but can you help me? And they're very helpful, of course. And I guess that's how I make friends. And even I also have a life outside of swimming.
Okay.
I'll go watch a movie with some of my friends. I'm very into movies.
In the cinema?
Yeah, in the cinema.
Okay.
And I love movies, like superhero movies, all that kind of stuff. So when a new movie comes out, I'll say, okay, mommy, this weekend after swimming on Saturday, I'm going here. She'll be like, okay. Then I go and hang out with my friends after the movie, maybe have a chat, catch up on everything that's maybe not swimming. But majority of the time, I am out with my swimming friends. So in the end, we still talk about swimming sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in general, just also one thing I've learned over my time with swimming and balancing and everything is that I have to keep doing things that actually keep me happy. So when I feel like I'm being over pushed by swimming, I know I can find release from school. And when I know school is really pumping me, I know I can find release in swimming. Yeah. So I guess that also helps a bit with the balance. Because if I'm struggling in school, at least I have swimming. If I'm struggling with swimming, at least I have school. Yeah. And making friends is kind of easier when you see them every day at the swimming pool or you meet them at school every single day. It's I would say I'm a bit of an introvert, but then again, I love talking to people. I love getting to know people. I love listening to different stories and learning from people. So it's
Yeah.
almost easy for me to make friends.
Okay. What was your first major event out of the country? When was
World
it?
Championships, actually,
When was that?
in 2019
Where was that?
in London. That
London?
was the moment when I realized that I want to take swimming as a career.
So you went on an invitation,
I went on wildcard.
wildcard, okay?
Yeah. I went on wildcard and I had 50 free and 100 free. At that time, I wasn't very familiar. I didn't love freestyle. I only loved breaststroke. So when I swam that event, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm just going to do my best. I made personal best, of course, but I was like, I still want to swim breaststroke.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that event was, if my eyes weren't open before, they were literally about to pop out
Like
of my
the
head.
size of how big this is and how it could be.
Exactly. Like it's something I can take far. Because at that event was where I had my first media recognition. That event was actually supported for me to attend by the Agitos Foundation of the International Paralympic Committee, because at the time, government wasn't yet fully supportive. So Agitos Foundation was able to cater for me, my plane ticket, my accommodation, but for me and my coach, not for my mom. So because I'm a female, I'm a minor, I can't travel alone with a male coach. I, of course, needed my mom. So somehow we found some support and some well wishers here in Uganda, and my mom was able to travel with us. And because I was with the Gators Foundation, I had to get that interview. And when I was interviewed, I got those swimming shorts, and I guess the IPC then found interest in me because I had, as coming from an African background, of course, there aren't very many African swimmers. Okay, there is South Africa, but of course, South Africa has always been known for swimming because of Chad Leclos, and they also have very good paraswimmers. But the sub-Saharan region of East Africa and whatnot, there aren't many paraswimmers from there, let alone young swimmers who are this dedicated. So then I started to become known in the paraswimming world. So on top of that, I also discovered that, oh, this can go somewhere. I'm seeing all these superstars left and right, and I'm thinking, oh, these guys are definitely here after years of training, years of experience, like 2 times older than me in age, and they're doing very well. They're world record holders, and I'm swimming in like lanes next to them, same pool as them. These guys are superstars. I want to be like them. I want to be just like them.
So that's 2019, and you're like, okay, now I need to take this to the next level. So from there, where else? Let's just go through them, all of them. So from London.
From London, it was so sure now that I'm going to get a wild card for Tokyo.
That's 2020.
But then it was postponed.
2021,
And then I had the opportunity to qualify. So I made the qualification time. Then I went with only one event, 100 breaststroke. So after that,
Did you know at the time what you had achieved by making the qualification time?
Yes, it was huge because I remember thinking to myself, this is the only opportunity I have to make history for Uganda. I already knew I was going on wildcard and I would be the youngest athlete there at 13 years old. But then it was pushed.
13 years.
Yeah, at 13 years old. Literally just entered my teenage years and I was so ready to keep on doing what I'm doing. And then the qualification opportunity came up, I managed to qualify, and I'm like, this is such a big deal. I'm not only going to be the youngest athlete at the Paralympic Games, but I'm also going to be the first ever Ugandan swimmer qualifier for either the Olympic or Paralympic Games. I'm just going to be the first of it all. Even though I went with one event, I had to make sure that I made the most of that event. So of course I swam well. I swam only the heats, but it's history for Uganda. It's history for myself. It's showing progress in my swimming.
The first Ugandan to qualify for the Paralympics on sporting merit. Not on a world card, not on invitation.
Yeah, and
super special. Just
being in the Paralympic village, and you're always around swimmers when you're going for the championships or the World Series or anything, but this time around I was with para athletics. I was around people who do badminton. I was seeing people in boccia wheelchairs, and I remember sitting down on a television and seeing all these different para sports that aren't swimming, and I was just inspired, even though I'm not watching swimming. It's just the whole environment was very inspiring. So of course that opened up my eyes to how much support is needed for parasport in Uganda and awareness, which is why when I came back, I started to do programs where I got to talk to people at schools. I was more than happy to share my story. And I guess that's how it started for me, my journey to Paris. So then in 2023, actually, for my second World Championships, that's where I made my first World Championship final. Also something that had never been done in Ugandan swimming ever. But that was after the Commonwealth Games in 2022 and after the World Islamic Solidarity Games, still in 2022, where I was able to get about 6 medals and be the person with the most medals on that team. That was also another piece of history for Uganda. I remember going to State House and holding all my medals like this because my neck was starting to hurt and standing in front of the president.
I know that picture. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember I was holding my medals like this and my neck was starting to hurt. And then I also stood in front of the president. I stood next to him, and that's something that anyone could ever dream of. Just meeting the president of Uganda, someone who's ruled Uganda for
way more than you're 18. Yeah.
Twice my age, basically, almost
more
twice.
than that.
Or even more, actually.
Yes.
And meeting him and seeing the kind of person that he is and getting some words of advice from him as well. It was amazing. It was surreal. It was a surreal moment. And holding my medals like this and looking at him and saying, this is what I've been able to achieve for Uganda. It was also an
every time you're like, I made the right call. I made the right choice.
Yes. Every time I'm like, okay, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And I'm glad that I was able to have my mom with me to share these experiences as well.
Beyond the results in class, the story of how you joined Kabojja, when you're giving those speeches in your vacation, just relive it for me.
I was just going around schools. I just went around different schools, different communities where I was actually invited to come and have a talk with some people. Some were online, some were in person. So when I was invited to Kabojja on their sports day,
as the guest of honor.
As the guest of honor, alongside the Uganda Aquatics president, Moses Mose, and I don't remember who else was there, but it was me and him as guests of honor. So I went in front of the students and I spoke. I gave my story. I talked about my story, gave them some words of encouragement. The sports day, I watched some exhibitions, some races. I didn't watch swimming because the swimming events had already finished weeks before. And I was able to also award them medals. So I remember after all that, we had a talk with the director. And he says, we want to support you. We want you in our school. They didn't even say not even want, they said, we need you in our school. I said, I also need to be in your school because I need this kind of program because I know with the summer holiday, for example, I'll be able to maximize my training without having to worry about also maximize school without having to worry about competitions mixing up in there. So when they came up with this opportunity to support me and my swimming, I said, I can start tomorrow if I have to. I was ready. Like 2 weeks of work, that's okay. 1 month of work, that's fine for me. I just need to. I'd be very, very happy to start immediately. So then we also spoke about me being a brand ambassador for the school. And I said, I'd love to. So every time I make some posts on social media, I'll post about Kabojja International School. I will post about Kabojja International School even when I'm abroad because they have been very, very supportive of me. And such a brand endorsement like that also brings about disability awareness in the school as well. So I would say now the school that's the one thing I would always support international schools for is that they are always looking at inclusion. And another brand that saw me was actually Speedo. Immediately after Paris, I remember receiving an email from Speedo, which is the biggest swimming brand in the world. Because I wore a Speedo racer in one of my last races, and I guess I looked really good in their racer, and I did really well.
We'll have to look it up.
I did really well in their racer, and they looked me up, and they reached out to me, and I said, 100% yes. No doubt, I would love to be a brand of Speedo. Actually, the shirt I'm wearing right now.
Speedo.
Yeah, Speedo.
Talking of Speedo and the brands coming to, right on to what you've achieved. I mean, I had the companies, I mean, just jump on you, but I do not have them. But we can use this platform to actually make sure this message is coming through. Are you surprised that no company in Uganda is jumping onto your story and the achievements that you have achieved thus far? I'm
actually still confused. It's more confusion than surprise. Because I've seen lots of people, lots of athletes be on billboards, especially from athletes like Cheptegei or Keeper Teach, sponsoring these major brands. I mean, I drink water when I'm training, so why aren't I sponsored by someone like Renzori or Riham or anything?
Yeah.
So I'm actually in shock that a brand like Speedo reached out to me before a national brand would reach out to me, because, of course, maybe I was thinking, because I'm still a minor, it's going to be very hard to draw up a contract. So that's what I've been like thinking. But ever since I turned 18, the only people who have reached out have been international brands. And Kabojja International School, and that's for school, and then this is for swimming.
Yeah.
So I'm yet to wait and see if the opportunities do end up coming through, but I'm giving Uganda benefit of the doubt, considering that I was still a minor at the time.
I mean, we have several companies that, you know, there's talk political of talking patriotism and all. Now, for me, Ugandan brands, Uganda Airlines, even government, in terms of government programs, things like maybe immunization or a program they're rolling out, they are not better communicators than athletes, even not better communicators than a teenager who's just turned 18, but has achieved way more than most people would achieve in their lifetime. And she's in your face and you cannot take advantage of it. So for companies...
On top of that, I'm more than willing to speak about anything. Like, I love talking to people. I love interacting
You're a public
with people.
speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any company watching this in Uganda, we have our athletes who live, sacrifice for this country without getting allowances for it, but they go raise this flag, and you guys just cannot see this. Husnah Kukundakwe here, 18. She sits on the Athlete Council of the International Paralympic Committee. A representative of Africa, not Uganda. Of course, Uganda is in Africa, but you get the point. She's been at the Commonwealth, at the Paralympics, Islamic Games, World Championships, the only Ugandan athlete, the only Ugandan swimmer to qualify on sporting merits, not on a wild card or an invitation for the Paralympics. And at that level, anywhere, she's the only one. So if you're a company watching this, I mean, Nidai Semo, Husnah is just starting her career at 18. I think you have about 12 years plus of doing this, or even more. And the journey that I see that you are taking right now, I wouldn't be shocked if you stay at the International Paralympic Committee and run these sports even way beyond you being actively in the pool. So for me, I'm honored, pleasured to have you on the show. But most importantly, the lessons you're giving to even your age mates and even people way older than you, like us. You're inspiring us. We did interview you on our other TV station. And at the time you were reading some very special book. I forget the title, but you're also known to be a very good reader.
I love reading. I love some of the things I do in my free time are actually reading. I read lots of novels, whether it's adventure or romance, or I've now started reading self-help books from maybe not
How to Make an Influence Friends.
Maybe not that.
Grow Rich.
But maybe not in terms of football, but in terms of like swimming.
Swimming, okay.
There's this para swimmer. We used to swim together, but she just retired recently after Paris, and she released a book. And I remember reading that book, and I was like, I have experienced all this. And just from that book alone, I learned so much that has really helped me improve my swimming. So I always encourage for other people to read books as well. And in my free time, I like playing board games with my brothers. They win, but it's fine. I beat them either way. In my head, I'm winning.
And I'm sure we shall write a book at some point, right?
Hopefully.
We shall write a book.
Let's keep it a surprise.
Okay. Okay. And then
I'd love to write a book.
Movies, you love movies too, you said?
Yeah, I love watching movies.
Okay.
I love watching TV shows. It's a good way to also recover as an athlete without using too much energy. And every now and then I like to game. I'm good at FIFA. I would like to. I can play.
Give me the voice.
My little brother is professional now. He knows all the secret moves from FIFA, but I still give him a hard time.
Okay.
Like, he won't hit me like 10-0. I'll score like a couple of goals to make it even.
Do you listen to music?
Yeah, I do listen to music a bunch.
Okay.
Like,
what's your favorite?
Mostly,
Can you give us your top 3 favorites?
My top 3 favorite songs.
Yeah.
let me start with favorite movies, because that one I
Okay.
can actually give you.
Please,
I can actually give you a favorite movie of
Yeah.
all time. It's actually a shocker, but my favorite movie is Frozen. Frozen 2, actually. Because I don't want to explain too much, but it's just my favorite movie of all time. Like, I could watch it any day, anytime. Literally every time I get on a flight, it's the first movie I look for, because I know I will watch it and then take a nap happily. Then my favorite music, that's kind of tricky, because
maybe musician.
Even that's harder.
That's harder.
Because I listen to a lot of like headphone music, so not the kind that should play on a speaker to like lots of people. So like where I put in both my headphones and it's like surround audio and I'm in my own space. But basically any music that has like special meaning behind it, that's not just beats and vibes. It's the kind of music that I usually listen to. So maybe pop, alternative, a little bit of Afro. I'm not very much into Afro, but yeah. And then in terms of anything else that I do outside the pool is just generally hang out with my friends. I love interacting with people and getting to know new people. I love making new friends, and I just love being me.
When you close your eyes,
when I close my eyes,
what do you see Husnah Kukundakwe turning into?
Either top in the world medical researcher, because actually one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about school is that I want to be either a pediatrician or someone who does something in the line of medical research. As of when I went to ask my mom actually about what happened to my hand, and she told me that I'll tell you more when you're older, but for right now, just know that God made you the way you are. Actually, when I was older and I asked again, she said it's actually a condition called congenital Burns syndrome or something. And it's something that on Google, at least it says in the amniotic sac as a kid, there's some bands that wrapped around my arm, for example, and the rest of it didn't grow. And my fingers, they just had deformalities. So then I was like, okay, I'm understanding this of Google, but I want to know what it really means as a doctor. And also research about ways of why was it not detected when my mom went for all those tests? Why was it only revealed when I was given birth to?
That's extremely powerful.
It's very, very powerful, because then, like, why was this? And for example, if it had been detected, could it have been changed? Yeah. So that's actually why I'm very passionate about school as well. That's why I do BCM and I want to go into medicine. And
you're determined to go all the way?
All the way. I'm determined to go all the way. And if it means at some point I may have to stop swimming and maybe focus on that, I'll make that sacrifice. But for now, my main goal is to come home one day with a Paralympic medal. First ever Ugandan swimmer, para-swimmer with a Paralympic medal.
I have
whether
strong
it's
belief that
bronze
it's going to
or
happen.
gold or silver, as long as I have it around my neck, that would be a dream that I've had since I entered paraswimming.
I think that's
since
happening.
I discovered what paraswimming is, and I work every day towards that goal.
And your numbers, your recent times actually kind of signal that you could actually bring
My
us
recent
the
times.
first Commonwealth medal could be coming home.
Just keep our hands together and pray, because I have lots of hopes for these upcoming Commonwealth Games. The way I performed in Singapore was something that I knew had to come eventually because of all the training that I'd been putting in this year. After my not very good performance in Paris in my favorite event, I had to make sure that these coming championships had to be way better. I cut almost a second and a half in 2 seconds alone in just this whole year. And that's something that's very hard to do in a swimming, considering even cutting half a second is like magical. So all that vigorous training led to that point, and I know that with lots and lots and lots more training, I'll be able to achieve very big in Commonwealth Games. And I feel like the one thing that keeps me going as a swimmer is my goal is not to go for that medal, actually. I'm the kind of swimmer who loves to see progress in my sport, in my swimming. So even if I cut the time and I don't get the medal, but as long as I'm seeing that progress, I know that I will get there someday. And to me, if the medal comes, it will be like, oh, okay.
It will find you progressing.
It will find me progressing.
Yeah.
So if I were to get the medal, but I'm not cutting my time, I feel like I would be sadder than I would be happier, in my perspective, because I'm the kind of person who wants to get better every single day. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm going to be better than yesterday in every way possible. So if I'm able to go to the Commonwealth Games and improve my times and just swim better than I did 6 months ago,
Yeah.
I'll be very happy with the result, even if it's a bronze medal, if it's a gold medal, if it's a silver medal, if it's no medal at all, as long as I'm progressing and showing people around the world that it's not the bling that matters, but it's the fact that you're improving yourself every single day and putting in the work to improve every single day that really counts.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, Commonwealth coming up in London.
Big games. In Glasgow.
Sorry, in Glasgow.
Yeah.
We have the Paralympics in LA.
Oops.
Sorry. So literally, your program is cut out. The good thing with an athlete is you always have the goal, and you're moving towards that as well. So I think that's what's up next.
That's what's
But
next.
before, you have a trip to Malaysia?
Yes, aside from swimming, I do lots of public speaking, and I'm an ambassador of lots of companies. For example, the IPC, I'm a youth ambassador. Aside from being an athlete representative, I'm also a youth ambassador of an organization called United Through Sports, which works with companies such as Special Olympics, the IPC as well. Basically, all other sports around the world work with UTS, and they have also been very supportive of my swimming journey. Yeah. They give me the platform to share my story. They've given me the platform to share my story multiple times. And they have an event coming up. It's called a World Youth Festival. I was able to attend its edition in Thailand for the first time. And I had lots of fun there. I got to meet new people, make new friends. And it's going to be the same opportunity this time around as well, but this time in Malaysia. And this time around, I'm going as almost more experienced and a much bigger story to tell than the previous time. So I can't wait for that event as well. Yeah.
Maybe just explain to us briefly, being on the Athletes Council of the IPC, what does that mean? What does it come with?
Of course, as an athlete's representative in general, I'm a voice of the athletes. So my role is to interact with the athletes, get to know some of the challenges that they have, or it's almost like a direct link. Like the IPC Athletes Council is a bridge between the management of the bigger parties in the IPC and the athletes. Yeah. So I'm there to bridge that gap.
Okay.
So for me right now is for the African region. So I'll reach out to a couple of athletes, athlete representatives from the different African countries, of course the ones that are responsive as well. And I'll have some interactions with them, gather up some points, and usually there's a meeting every 2-3 months where we get to discuss maybe our way forward. There's some of the challenges that are being faced.
This could be online or in person?
Yeah, mostly online though, and some in person, but not very many because it's expensive. Yeah. But those online meetings we still take very seriously, and I would say some of the things we've been able to tackle is the communication bridge, which has been the biggest challenge so far between the athletes and the IPC. It's just the communication bridge has been very difficult, and I feel like we're starting to work on that challenge. And the plans that I have for the African Paralympic Committee, in my opinion, is to just try and bring about disability awareness a bit more in Africa. Because it's there, but it's not to the point where it's very recognizable. Like the IPC already does a very good job in terms of having to sell broadcast rights to, for example, SuperSport, so that the Paralympics are also aired on SuperSport as well in the sub-Saharan region and all the regions of Africa. But of course, there's still a very big job in terms of disability awareness to take care of. But yeah, just overall, my role as a member on the IPC is to just bridge the gap between the para-athletes and the IPC.
And of course, there's an issue today of people who are building places.
Yes.
Places, stadiums.
Like sports facilities, stadiums, for example.
Even public places. Public places to ensure that the construction takes care of people who are differently abled in terms of accessibility.
Exactly. So one of the initiatives that I actually try to talk about here are the NCS is constructing stadiums, and it's now recent that they're starting to realize that accessibility is very much needed, which is why there's been reconstructions of the Nambole Stadium or the Hoima Stadium that's coming up.
Yeah,
no one's already set because it's now that they're starting to realize that parasport is growing. On top of parasport growing, there's also people in the community who need to use these facilities, maybe just for their general fitness or to be used by maybe some of the KCCA schools for people with disabilities. So it's progress in Uganda, and I love to see it. But of course, it's still work in progress because of course there's still some buildings with lifts, but the lifts are not big enough to fit a wheelchair.
Okay, so we have a very good ending segment, but before that, I hope and really this is one of the most absorbing, humbling, and inspiring moments. And every other day, I mean, we have guests, and every other guest is very powerful and quite disarming, depending on their story. And yours is quite a unique one. So it's quite powerful, the things that you've achieved from where you came, getting over the odds, and you are not complaining about life. You're literally embracing life and using it to inspire anyone else who has any excuse.
I feel like the one thing in my journey that I've been able to achieve is when I started, it was to prove people wrong, but now it's to prove myself right. That's the one thing I
change of mindset.
Change of mindset has changed since then, and that's the thing I love about growing in sport. It's that you hold yourself accountable, and you're able to achieve that accountability step by step, and learning that it's not going to be just the ending that's important, but the journey as well. So I also love to talk about that, not just about parasport, but sport in general, because all that led me to be a confident, outgoing person that I am now.
Husnah, I want to give you an opportunity to say something about mom.
Where do I start? My mom is my biggest supporter and biggest fan and biggest critique, and critique in the best way possible, because she knows that I will sometimes lose motivation. Like, it's not easy to wake up at 4 a.m. to go train. But if I find myself in bed later than 4:30, she'll get up out of her bed, knock on my door and say, Husnah, you've already come this far. There's no way you can back down now. She's the person who pushes me every single day to try and be the best version I am. And she reminds me sometimes why I started swimming in the first place. She tells me stories every now and then. She'll say, Husnah, I remember that time when I bought you this swimming costume that made you feel like you were floating, just like there's these puffy surfer costumes which have some kind of padding that make you float on the water. And I remember you refused to wear that costume. You wanted to feel the water every time you swim, which is one of the reasons I started swimming in the first place. I just love the feel of the water. I love being in, just feeling myself and free in the water. So she reminds me in times when I'm feeling my absolute worst, and she's my biggest supporter. She's my biggest fan. Every time someone comes and tells me, Husnah, you're my biggest fan. I'm your biggest fan. And I'm like, are you sure about that?
Yes.
I say, yeah, thank you. But there's only one person I would really consider my biggest fan, and that's my mom. She's been with me every step of the way in my professional career, and I love her so much, to the point that I don't think I'll ever be able to pay her back in any way possible, but just being better every single day, to know that this investment wasn't for nothing. So biggest shout out to my mom. And I wish that she would come and say a few words, because she, out of all the parents that I've met, has been one of the most supportive swimmer parents ever in my swimming career. And she's not supportive in a way that is forcing me to swim. Like, she's not telling me, how can I say, if you don't swim, I won't give you this. She's telling me, if you don't swim, I'll be with you. But you just have to have a good enough reason as to why you're backing down. Because nowadays it's not just you swimming for you,
Mm.
swimming for all the companies that are endorsing you for Speed or for Kabojja International School. You're swimming for Uganda.
Yeah.
You're swimming for all the little kids who are looking up to you now as a role model. And she's also my manager. So when I'm being distracted, for example, when I forget that I have a meeting tomorrow or I have to come on this podcast with Andrew, she'll remind me and say, Husnah, you're going to speak to Andrew. I need you to remember to talk about this, this, and this. I need you to speak about this as well. And she's also the one to reach out to lots of people because, I'm balancing school and swimming. So she's the one who kind of runs my Instagrams as well. My Instagram, Twitter. Okay, TikTok, she hasn't touched there yet because I feel like TikTok is a personal thing. But I'm also about to give it to her because
you're about to surrender.
I'm about to surrender because swimming is, it's sport takes up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
By the time you feel like you want to do something, you end up feeling really tired, and she helps fill in those gaps for me, and I can't appreciate her any more than I think I can't appreciate her enough because she has done so much for me. She's not only my mom, she's my driver, she's my agent, she's my manager,
Everything.
she's everything to me.
Yeah.
And
she's
I can't even say if she could swim for me, if she could take the burden off of me, she would.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I just love her so much, and I believe that we will go through this journey together, step by step, and achieve everything that I dream of, everything that she dreams of. And she's also not passionate about my swimming alone. She's passionate about just the disability awareness, considering everything that she's gone through or she's seen me go through as a person with a disability. She loves speaking to different parents. She's actually the one who people reach out to join paraswimming because they've seen how she's been able to support me in my journey, and the fact that she's willing to support them as well to grow paraswimming. And even when I'm not swimming, I know she can still be able to carry on that legacy with other people is something that also motivates me to keep swimming every day, because I know if I'm able to build up that kind of foundation and inspire and leave a legacy behind, and I leave a legacy behind, it won't be me swimming for nothing. It will be something that's carried on forward. Because I wouldn't want to be the last person. I wouldn't want to be the last paraswimmer. I want there to be more and more and more and more. And the journey is carried forward. Because it's not the end product that's the matter. It's the journey that gets to there. And that's my mom for everyone. She's very tough. She's very strict. And when she sees me going off stray, she leads me back to the right path. And if it requires some slaps, they're there to be received, as always, as an African parent. But I like that she always finds time to interact with me, to talk to me, and we're now more than parent-child dynamic. It's best friends now.
Yeah.
Every single thing that happens in my life, whether out of swimming or in my teenage life or anything, or just anything that's just, we always talk about it because she's the person that I would run to in case I needed any advice from. So she's not only a big part of my swimming life, she's a big part out of my swimming life as well, and even in my school life as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Quite a powerful tribute there. And also for our viewers, she drives her every day
at 4 a.m.
At 4 a.m.
on Northern
training
Bypass
and school every day, and flies with her everywhere, including the meeting that is upcoming in Malaysia as well.
For people who might think that, I'm like the favorite child, all the other kids are not taken care of, well, trust that if it means, whenever we travel, there's always like the challenge of time zones.
Yeah.
But my mom will always make sure to stay up really late if it meant that she gets to speak to the boys. Because she knows that she's traveling with me, yes, but she makes sure that all my other siblings get the same kind of care as well.
Yeah.
So it may look like she's spending most of her time on me, which she might, but she always makes sure that each one of us feels as special as possible. So
thank you so much, Husnah. Yeah. And remember in the introduction when I told you that she's now 18 and she can sack her manager, but she can't.
I don't want to.
And now you know why. Okay, so Husnah, as we are coming to the end of the show, we have a final segment where you get to give a piece of advice to someone who's coming up next. But for all our viewers of the Game of Life, thank you so much for sticking with us. Powerful, powerful story from Husnah. But before we leave, we need now to be specific, and you leave piece of advice or nuggets or word of wisdom to the guest who is coming up next to you do not know, or to Paralympians, or to anyone who needs inspiration from you and how they can handle their life, and any other thing you want to say on the Game of Life.
I'll start with advice that my mom gives me every day, or that advice my mom gives to other parents as well, is that allow yourself to try everything, find your passion, and stick to it. Work hard, keep pushing, and make sure you're doing it to the best of your ability, no matter how small it is. No matter how small the activity, no matter how small the task, make sure you're doing it to the best of your ability. And advice that I'd give as well is just be determined. Have goals and reach out to those goals as soon as you can with whatever ability that you have. And to all those people out there who are maybe interacting with people with disabilities, give them an opportunity to try, because that's all that they're asking for. Whether it's a job opportunity, whether it's an opportunity to play, to just engage, give them an opportunity to just try and show you their ability rather than you looking at their disability. So just keep working hard, be determined, and have goals, and keep working towards those goals. And whenever you're feeling down, just remember the reason why you started having that passion in the first place. And then that should be the thing that drives you to keep doing it every single day, even when you're feeling your worst. Yeah.
Quite powerful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Husnah. Thank you so much for having me.
We've enjoyed your time and everything you've shared.
Thank you, Ron.
And safe journey, and all the best in everything.
Thank you so much.
Putting your heart, hands, and effort onto it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I'm honored to sit here and share that lots of legends have sat in and many legends to come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
it's been
too.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
All the best.